Hello guys. Yeah, I'm not even gonna bother with the whole sup chooms intro thing, because unlike most of the content on my channel, this is not a video I ever wanted to make or even imagined I would have to make. But if you're here, then you've read this title correctly, and it is true. Finasteride, the drug that has helped millions of men save their hair and their confidence, is no more, or at least it is soon to be no more very soon. If you've followed my content, then you'll know that in the past few months, I've been keeping close track on the recent investigation of finasteride and dutasteride by the EMA, which stands for the European Medicines Agency. That's the European Union's equivalent to the FDA, so they regulate the sale of prescription drugs and they determine which drugs are allowed to be sold on the market. I'll go ahead and post the videos I made about the subject below in the description if you're interested in seeing how this all developed. But if this is your first time hearing about it, let me quickly give you a summary. Last fall, a bunch of anti-finasteride trolls and neckbeards who are angry because they are too afraid to take finasteride decide to bring their grievances about the drug to the EMA, claiming that the drug causes permanent side effects and increases the risk of suicide. They didn't provide any scientific data to actually back up their claims because there is none. So what they did instead is that they went to media outlets like the BBC, the CBC, the Wall Street Journal, and the Daily Mail, where they shared the same 2 or 3 unverified anecdotes about people whose lives were apparently ruined by finasteride. These stories blew up all over the internet and cable news, and it even got the attention of politicians. So despite the fact that the conditions these people claim to have, like erectile dysfunction and depression, are very common and highly multifactorial conditions that can be caused by many other things besides finasteride, and despite the fact that at least one of these people who came to the media was proven to be lying about his story, and despite the fact that there is no scientific data to support the notion that finasteride causes any permanent side effects or depression, and despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of doctors do not even believe it is a real condition, the EMA still decided to trust a couple of unverified anecdotes over a mountain of scientific data proving otherwise, and now millions of men are at risk of being permanently maimed by baldness, even though the vast majority of people respond extremely well to the drug. Finasteride users are now faced with the very unfortunate reality of either losing their hair permanently or possibly risking legal retaliation by acquiring the drug through black market sources. If you are a finasteride user, then you should know that the EMA has decided for you that finasteride, a drug that was prescribed to you by a medical professional, is no longer something you can legally use anymore. They think they know better than your doctor about what kind of healthcare you should receive, and they're doing all this just because a small handful of bald, angry incel losers decided that the best way to cope with their decision not to use finasteride is to ensure that nobody else can use it either, so everyone can be just as bald, sexless, and miserable as they are, since misery loves company. And you may be thinking, well, that's okay because I'm a member of the Dutasteride master race, so these laws can't touch my divine being. Well, I'm very sorry to report to my regal friends from the Dutasteride master race, but this new decision by the EMA encompasses all 5-AIR inhibitors, including finasteride and dutasteride. So not even the master race is safe from the EMA's bullshit anymore, and now all of our hair follicles are in grave jeopardy. So at this point, we can either hope that the EMA backtracks on this decision, which is unlikely, or we can pray that Kintor hurries up with GT20029 and it ends up being as good as we hope it is, which is no guarantee, of course. So this information is not public yet. That's why you're first hearing about it from me. However, being that I am a public figure in the hair loss scene, I do have some European contacts with ties to the EMA who have been following this EMA report very closely, and they disclosed this information to me personally. For their protection, I am not going to disclose the name of the person who disclosed this information to me, but I'll go in more depth as to how I obtained this data later in the video. For now, though, I think it is more important for my viewers to know what the details are of this decision and what it will mean for them, including finasteride and dutasteride users who don't live in the European Union, because as I'll explain soon, this unfortunately affects all of them too. So, let's talk about how the EMA works when it comes to reviewing the legality of drugs. Each month, a subcommittee of the EMA meets and reviews the status of drugs on the EMA drug formulary. At the end of each month, they update a website that lists their decisions on these drugs. Right now, on the EMA website, the latest update is from March. However, I was able to obtain from my sources the link to the April update. Here it is. No, your eyes are not deceiving you, I'm afraid to report. That is both finasteride and dutasteride being classified as use suspended. That means just what it sounds like. The EMA has officially decided to suspend the use of both of these drugs. So that's basically the equivalent of if a drug in the USA becomes a Schedule 1 controlled substance. It is no longer legal to prescribe it, and the drug can only be used legally in controlled scientific experiments. So that means that both finasteride and dutasteride will no longer even be available on gray market sources. It will only be obtainable on black market sources if you can find those and risk those. Now, finasteride and dutasteride have both been widely prescribed drugs that have been available for decades. So even after these drugs are banned later this month, there will still be plenty of 5-AR inhibitors floating around on the market that could be sold on the black market. But with such a ban in place, production will definitely cease very soon, so it'll only be a matter of time before this drug becomes exceedingly rare. Certainly, it no longer will be able to meet its current demands no matter where you live. And even if you can acquire it, every finasteride user will be taking a huge legal risk since it will no longer be legal to even possess it. So, imagine having to pick between your hair and your freedom. Thanks to organizations like the PFS Foundation, PFS Network, and Moral Medicine, as well as the media outlets who pathetically decide to bend the knee and give these anti-finasteride groups so much clout and attention, that is the world we are currently living in. So given this terrible decision by the European Union, we're definitely going to be seeing an extreme resurgence of momentum from the anti-finasteride movement to ban finasteride worldwide. And being that they have now officially succeeded in the European Union, there's no doubt in my mind that they will be targeting regulating agencies in the UK, Canada, Australia, and the United States next. I can't speak for how other countries like UK or Canada will decide, but I am strongly inclined to believe that RFK Jr., who leads the Health and Human Services Department of the United States, which oversees the FDA, he will be strongly inclined to agree with the anti-finasteride trolls, especially considering just how overly credulous he is to literally every other health conspiracy theory that has ever existed in human history. We shouldn't be forced to have to scrounge up whatever remaining finasteride and dutasteride we can possibly find after this ban goes into full effect later this month. So I think the best thing we can possibly do is to express our outrage and contact all these officials responsible for this ill-informed decision. Let them know about the actual science. Let them know that the people who are claiming permanent side effects are attention seekers and liars. Make sure they know that there will be political consequences for this if they don't reverse their terrible decision immediately. Finasteride and dutasteride are both wonderful drugs that stop hair loss, stop an enlarged prostate, and are currently being researched for many other great health and longevity benefits, like I've discussed many times in my Brian Johnson videos. To lose these drugs forever just because of the testimony of a few liars and hypochondriacs who cry to the media, it would be a massive setback for the scientific movement that we as a society will not be able to recover from anytime soon, perhaps ever. We shouldn't have to live in a world where science can be overruled by anecdotes. We need to fight back against this decision hard, not just for the sake of our hair, but for the sake of all of humanity. So I do owe you guys an explanation as to how I acquired this information, but like I explained earlier, I am not going to disclose the name of the person who shared this info with me, but I do know for a fact that the person in question does have ties to the EMA, and they contacted me personally because they are just as outraged as I am, and they want this story to be made public before the ban goes into full effect. So, after my last video about the EMA decision, what happened was that this individual added me to a private group on Signal Chat, and through this, I was able to get the link and get the official confirmation that both finasteride and dutasteride will be suspended drugs in the EMA by the end of this month. So I want all my fellow chooms and hair loss switchers to know that this is not the end. This is definitely a setback, but it's not like this decision by the EMA can't be reversed one day. If anything, I think we should treat this as a warning sign against complacency. For far too long, we have ignored the anti-finasteride trolls infesting the hair loss community. We thought nothing they would ever say or do would affect us personally, but now it officially has. So it's time to fight back. No more fucking around. We're going to figure this out, chums, but the first step to a real solution here is spreading the word about this. So if you know a finasteride user, or if you know anyone who just believes in medical freedom in general, let them know about this video and about what the EMA is doing right now, because this is just the beginning for the finasteride haters. They hate finasteride, and they hate finasteride users because we're a strong reminder of their failures in life, and they won't rest until finasteride and dutasteride have both been eradicated from planet Earth forever. And today, they've now officially come one step closer to making that happen. So please, chums, spread the word and let them know that we are not going down without a fight. And I'll be back with more updates on this subject soon, so thank you so much for watching, hair loss witchers. God bless.